I think one thing I'm underestimating as a parent, like I think children will get access to really smart toys or tutors.
Yes.
An individual assistant that's not necessarily in a chat interface, but it can be a physical device that you can talk to, that can get guidance, and you can get help with homework and things like this. I don't know if you have seen, but for example, now we're moving to a totally different topic, but in online dating, the human connection in online dating is sometimes higher than if you're meeting someone in person. Because when you're online dating, you can skip the filters. You don't need to think about how you look and how you act in public. You just talk about what you feel and what you think and what your values are. And you have this text link to another human.
Hello, guys. So I'm here again, Julius Neal. I have a guest here now. He is Simon Strålberg. They have consultancy group, which is Align. Simon, can you tell our viewers and watchers what it's all about? Introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. So let's start in the end, I guess. But my name is Simon, and I've been working with IT and also some part of AI for quite some time. And basically what I noticed is the latest few years, me and others were kind of trying to look into how to help companies with AI transformation, because I've been working on large enterprise customers with AI projects since even before ChatGPT. And when ChatGPT came, we realized, things are going to change.
So you mean that before ChatGPT, you're already working with AI?
Yeah, of course. AI is nothing new. And I actually like the term AI because it is broad. Maybe we can get into that a little bit. But I did a customer service chatbot in, I think, 2018, a series of projects. And then it was using natural language processing, and it was not just rules-based, but we used ML to train the model to answer the questions. And it worked. The machine translation was not good enough quality. It was quite funny, actually, because I said that, that with the pace of how the models are evolving, now we're talking about machine translation from one language to another. For example, we would take the emails coming to the service desk and we would translate them to English, so you could support all of the global service desks from one country. And the translation quality was almost good enough. But I said, these things are changing fast, so soon we will have machine translation that does this. So we just build the system, we upgrade, and then we will support the process. And then I moved on to some other assignment, and a few years later we got the ChatGPT moment. And I think everyone who had worked with something like this were more amazed than the general public, because we knew that this is really faster development than we thought. And since then, I think I've been frustrated with how slow things are moving with the rollouts, because now we've got this great technology. How are we going to use it?
So what do you think is what did GPT did right with their execution that, revolutionized or started this, boom of AI?
What they did right?
Yeah.
Well, I think that the ChatGPT moment was a little bit of a coincidence. Technically, it wasn't new. There had been similar iterations for quite some time, but what happened was that it achieved the perfect demo quality. And what I mean with this is that it was fun to talk to the application. So you would show it to friends and you would try it out, you would engage with it, and you would be able to enjoy the experience because it was such a broad experience. The technical reason to that was basically that they took the LLM technology and they applied first Instruct GPT. They applied a structured format of being able to converse with the application. And then ChatGPT was simply the next iteration, where now you can have a free form chat with the interface. And that was new. Before ChatGPT, I would say that you, as a user, you couldn't really understand AI. And now when I say AI, I mean a machine learning model that takes some input, transforms it. You can't really directly interact with it as a human being. So you achieve this level of demo quality by being able to fully, fluently converse in natural language, meaning that everyone can experience AI now. And that was the big breakthrough. And then, of course, there are technological breakthroughs on the way there, and they just shoved a lot of compute at the problem. But that was basically what happened. We achieved a great demo quality. And to be honest, for the first year, it was a demo. It wasn't really useful for anything. Now we're starting to see for enterprise use cases how it's achieving ROI levels, meaning you can actually use it for useful work and to make it easier in everyday life for workers and in private life as well. But now you can really use this interface to get value from it, basically.
It was kind of new when it was launched, right? So you just have to anyone in the world can just chat and just like giving you, it's like a search engine but have this natural language of human, and then you will be able to to get some information. So it's really fun. So
Yeah.
during the early days of ChatGPT, what do you think is what is the weakest point of ChatGPT when it was started?
I think depends on who you ask, but I know we gave some talks with a guy who's now well known in Sweden for teaching how to use generative AI, and he used this example that, well, ChatGPT gave me a poor, what do you say, rhyme for Christmas presents. So like this is a common task. You would say, oh, but I bought this machine for my wife. Can you help me come up with a rhyme? And it was kind of not so good in the early days. And then you would say, no, this will never be useful, so I can't use it for work.
Okay.
And I think that's one of the issues, is that people don't really know how to use it, and they expect something from the AI, from generative AI service. And as soon as the expectation is broken, but it's not good enough for this particular area. So people started to kind of move back a little bit and say, this is not enterprise ready, and it's not going to be enterprise ready for quite some while. And I think we are kind of in this still period of hesitancy where you kind of know that it hallucinates, it doesn't answer all areas correctly, it doesn't. But the main issue, and this started 3 years ago, is that the expectation was sky high. People think that, oh, we can talk with computers now, it's super smart, it's intelligent, artificial intelligence. I think you need some expectations management there. It is just an LLM, but from my perspective, from a technical perspective, it is amazing. And then we are on the path now to shape how this LLM can improve and how it, when embedded with other applications, can be really useful. So the use case is all where it is, and the enterprise transformation.
So currently, what do you think now is, the current state of ChatGPT? Is it now a very much better version, and how it becomes better now?
Yeah, so what I like with ChatGPT right now, apart from deep research, which is my favorite functionality, just being able to task it to go and research something and get the report, and it's really useful for learning and for teaching. But what I like is that and if we look at OpenAI and their strategy, my perspective is that they, more than anyone, but now Google as well, they try to capture all of the use cases and have this one universal app that can do anything. It can generate pictures, it can talk with you, it can search your company knowledge, and so on. And I would say that that's the main strength right now, is that you can actually have one interface where you have one continuous conversation. You do some research, you do some instructions, you work with it, then you take some of that and you generate a picture. So I think that they have come quite a bit. But in my view, ChatGPT is also this is the mental picture that we have. When we talk about AI, we think about ChatGPT because that's what we use. And I would say I use it as a consumer every day. But generative AI and AI as a whole and the whole transformation is much larger than that. If you look from a technical, structural, organizational perspective, this is a new type of software, a new type of technology that does things that we couldn't do before, or it wasn't valuable, it wasn't cheap enough to do these kind of interactions that would normally take a human, or it wouldn't get done.
Yeah. So currently we have ChatGPT, we have Gemini, we have Grok, and then we have the China counterparts, right? What do you think is the advantage of Gemini, for example, over ChatGPT or ChatGPT over Grok?
I honestly don't really care about that. I have my opinions that's pretty much the same as anyone, and I
Mm-hmm.
use the tools myself. But the reason why I don't care is because the frontier models get updated in a quite egalitarian way, meaning that
Mm,
when someone releases a new frontier model, it will beat all of the benchmarks. Now,
mm-hmm.
last time it was Gemini 3, and that's
Okay.
amazing. They have huge strengths in multimodal capabilities, and their image generation is awesome right now. I guess you also already tried
Yes.
generating a
Yeah.
CV
Yeah.
or picture,
Yeah.
and it understands text. I didn't expect this. It understands how to generate an illustration that kind of works.
Yeah.
So I think people are underestimating how useful that is. Just being able to visualize an idea, communicate it to yourself even, just to think about the concept, that in itself is amazing. So Gemini is I guess, the strongest right now, but I don't really
Okay.
care about which model maker is doing it because they're all going to evolve. And then when you look at the use and you look at the enterprise use, we have some other type of puzzle to solve. What
Okay.
about you?
So for me, yeah, you're correct with Gemini. So I was also surprised when they released this, and then I was trying to compare about ChatGPT generating the images. I think ChatGPT has sometimes has hallucinating also with some of
Mm,
the images. So I tried Gemini. I was so surprised. I was like kinda almost as good as you expected, right? Whatever text that you put there, okay, they understand. And then for different times, like for example, for some text or some other some other research that I'm doing. So I compare that also, Gemini and ChatGPT. I think ChatGPT still have that an edge when it comes to some of the research things and then how they structure,
mm.
all these paragraphs and these sentences. And but Gemini is coping up. But the thing is, when it comes to generating these images, I think Gemini wins this time. I think this time they're winning. I haven't used the other ones, but I use Claude. Have you used Claude?
Yeah, yeah.
So
I want to get started with using skills.
okay.
So I assume not everyone has heard about it, but one of the issues is that if you want to use these tools in a useful way, you kind of need to prompt it and then you're wasting time. But I really like the idea of skills. I'm not sure if the implementation will work, but the
Mm-hmm.
idea is that you define a way of working for certain types of tasks, and then Claude will automatically pick what you define. So let's say that if I create a draft document of a project, this is what I want to include in it. And by the way, this is my company profile, this is my logo type and so on. And by the way, if we're doing something graphical, this is how I want to approach that. And Claude will automatically choose the best. And I've heard that is really useful. So I started setting up some skills myself, but I haven't really got around to do it. And I think we need some more structured way to share skills. But now we're talking because then we have we have a great way for humans to provide professional instructions in a structured and reusable way. So I think that kind of work or idea is going to be popularized. And yeah, Claude, we're first. We'll see. Maybe we'll see something different for the other vendors. You can, by the way, you can do something like this yourself. If you want, I don't know if you have tried using a markdown file in a project. So this is one of
No.
my better advice is that
Okay.
if you set up a new project in ChatGPT, for example, Claude has it as well, Gemini has it as well, but they can instruct it with a markdown file about basically if you upload a lot of files and you have some instructions, you can define the instructions. And then you can also tell the LLM manually what you're looking for. So you're describing, for example, the file structure. Maybe this will not be needed in a year or half a year. It will be so smart, it will find the context automatically. But right now, I think it really helps to just have this markdown file that describes the content of your project. And the great thing then is that if every folder that you want to use has a markdown file like this, then it's portable. You could reuse this markdown file in another LLM and you just say, this is basically my instructions. So this is how you use, if you work with Claude Code, for example, then you have these type of instructions per project as well. This is how I want to work with, this is the type of software stack
Yeah.
that I want to use, this is the approach that I want when developing and so on. And then you have this kind of possible feedback loop where you notice something is working, then you prove it, and then you have a way of working together with LLM.
So I have a previous guest also in speaker in this podcast about, she is using ChatGPT and then agents, as her co-founders. She has a name for each agent for that gets him. This Martha is the content strategist. This John is going to be my social media manager and all this. What is your take on that?
So having your colleagues and defining them in a service like that.
Yeah.
Looking as an individual, I could see why that works. This is kind of how I do it, but with projects. So I have some different specialization. And now let's say that I want to write an article. Then I have my writer's agent, let's say. I'm not so good at updating it, but I think that the context makes a huge difference. So by the way that you have defined it and by the type of conversations that you have in that project or in that agent, you can sometimes get an improvement. So I like it from a personal perspective. Enterprise perspective, agents is something I haven't seen it. I know that there's some companies that have huge success in implementing, including some Swedish government agencies and so on.
Really?
They have
Some Swedish government is already rolling out this one? Okay.
I would say I'm not sure what the stats are, but I'm saying that companies and government agencies, they are actually moving fast beyond this individual assistant. They want to have something that you can share with your colleagues. So one of the typical things that you would do is that you would let everyone experiment and you create your agents. And then you might have 100 agents in the company, and then you can share them with each others. And I think that use case is a little bit more interesting. There are some limitations to it, but I think it's a good idea to try specific functionality and improve on it, let's say. It's just a better structure. And like your previous guest, I would assume it's also a way to structure your thinking about this, because then you kind of expect that I can get help from this colleague in the AI.
Correct.
And you go there and you visualize that, yeah, this is a colleague, and then you will actually work with them. So in that sense, it also helps.
Yeah. So in your experience now in Sweden, let's focus on Sweden. So what is the current challenges of enterprise AI transformation projects that you have encountered already?
Yeah. So there's a lot, and I think that a lot of companies, they are just scratching the surface of what you can do with AI and generative AI, because they don't know what to do. So they just roll out the licenses and they say, guys, you figure this out. This is a useful tool. Just use it. And that's not really a way to transform a company. I'm coming from the perspective of digital transformation. Basically, when you have a new system, if we go back 50 or 60 years in time, and you had the first mainframe computers, and you had a new way of working with accounting, for example, you can use the computer to do it. But then you need to transform your ways of working. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Like, of course, you can't take the notes on the paper. You need to reshape the way that you're working to suit the system. And that's pretty much what digital transformation is. If we look at the latest decade, people are still doing digital transformation because tools are evolving, systems are evolving, ways of working are kind of lagging. So when you want to improve something drastically, then you need to look at the full picture. And I think that no one is really doing this for AI, meaning that we are only going to see limited benefits. Now we're talking large companies. We're going to see that someone can use tools and get some help in specific tasks. In coding, this is the most helpful because it's really easy for an individual developer to just shift. They use Cloud Code, for example, or Copilot, and they can increase their output. But even then, we're just scratching on the surface, because what you would like to do is that you would want everyone to think about how they are producing their output in a way that helps their colleagues in the next step and so on. So, for example, I would predict that we are going to get new roles within companies that have to do with this kind of knowledge transfer between different persons, different teams, and their LLMs, like how is this knowledge flow that we are generating in the company, how is it supporting our processes? And should we work in another way to basically optimize how we use AI? And I would say this is the biggest challenge. And I don't think that anyone is anyone. A lot of companies are going to have issues with this, because once you start to transform a little bit and you start to want to change, then you're going to unravel the entire foundation of the company. And this type of project is painful as it is. Now you add AI on top of that, which is a technology that people are unfamiliar with. And it's a little bit scary because you might lose your job, and it's also unknown. So it's, from a technological perspective, it's difficult to implement because you can't test it exactly every time. The project will be difficult. So a lot of companies, once they're moving into this AI transformation, are going to face huge challenges if they don't do it correctly. People are going to struggle, they're going to resist, we're going to have mistakes from AI, we're going to have fears. People are going to quit their job, and when someone quits, if they're not happy with the progress of the company, then the project will halt, and like we're going to see some chaos in the coming years, I would say. But yeah, long answer.
So how do you think organizations should tackle about the resistance of the employees? Because this has been the topic also in my previous podcast, that it should be, there should be some certain kind of buy-in from the people. But the people who are going to implement this is also, fearful about getting laid off or getting displaced by this AI. How do you think should the company should approach this on a people level?
Yeah. I mean, this is, of course, a science in itself, but one of the basic things is this is not a technology project, assuming that you're doing something major, which I think that you want to do sooner or later. This is not a tech implementation, so don't go to your tech partner and just say, can you please implement this system? That's the easiest way to fail. It's a transformative project which should also include change management competence. So someone who has gone through, like what you say, how you involve people and so on, because there are ways. I can give an example. There was someone I talked to just recently who is instructing a company about how to communicate with their employees when they are moving through this journey.
Yeah.
Talking about, we need to communicate this way first. We need to say that we're exploring AI. We want your input. We're going to have a workshop. It's not about the replacement. All of these strategies about how to communicate with employees. And she sat with the CEO and actually wrote the emails together with him before they got sent out. But then she looked the other way, and the CEO had invited to a workshop, all company workshop, something like this. And he didn't ask the change manager to approve of this email. He just sent the invite, and it just said, AI transformation, and then sent to all of the company. It didn't say anything about why they're doing it and so on. So of course people are immediately starting to question, like, what is this? Why haven't I been consulted? Why am I not involved?
Yeah.
So that's all of these small nuances. Yeah, maybe I have some other better answer as well, but I would say that's the first thing, that it's not just a tech project. And this is funny because I'm coming from the tech side of things, and I'm saying that. But
So okay, you already discussed the, this is not a tech project. So that's one of the challenges. How about the technological challenges now?
right.
For example, let's assume, okay, people buy in, okay, we have this transformation project, and then we have all these milestones, and then the plan, how to do it. Like, for example, it's a 5-year plan. So going in the phase 3 in the technological side, what do you think would be the challenge on that? Because as you can see, the technology is evolving, right? So as you implement this technology, the technology becomes obsolete at some way or the other. So how do you do that?
So one of the challenges that a lot of companies have is that they would want to use their data to build services that work for them. And the data is not in a state where it's usable by the LLM, and it's not structured, and they don't have everything in shape. Because it's easy when you're working with people, it's easy to not be perfect. So you have documents and they're scattered all over the company. You don't know exactly where they are, and the structure is not the same. But you can always ask your colleague because they know. because I'm not perfect, but I know my area. So you work around the imperfections using people, basically. And I would say this is one of the things that we're going to see, is that AI will expose if your overall digital maturity is good or not, if you're ready or not. Now, I think it's tempting to say, but we have all of these documents, they're scattered, and we have these different data structures in different systems and so on. So we should move everything to a new system, and we should have a huge data project before we can start working with AI. And a lot of companies are, for example, looking into Databricks or similar solutions to just structure their data differently, so it's easier to use for AI applications. One of the problems with this is that it's not the same for everything, and if you don't follow the business cases or the business, then you're just going to create a tech project and dump the data. So I would suggest that part of the AI strategy is how to prioritize and how to set up the roadmap, because I think some things you're ready to do now, and some things need a technical foundation. And you need to get your head around that and involve the right people to have these discussions and to do a plan and work iteratively. And you mentioned that the technology is evolving so fast.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
another part of it. So I'm in a project right now where it's a classical RAG solution, so retrieval augmented generation. You get an answer, but it's enriched with the company data. I am constantly bombarded by information from sources about where is the AI development. I live in it every day, and I talk to people who are at the forefront of the development. I don't know where we're headed. If someone is normal, let's say, they are looking at usually information that's 2 years old about how you build this type of system. I try to be at the forefront, but it happened now, for example, if you want to build a solution using Microsoft services that uses a RAG, then you can do this using Azure AI Search, let's say. So this is a specific service. They made it easier that you just take your documents, you put in a storage, and then the AI can basically search and index them in a smart way. This is, by the way, a technology that I think it's 6 months old. It was really, really needed, and now it's there. So that's great. Microsoft supported that. Google released it just the other week, 2 weeks ago. But a lot of companies also want agentic search. So they want reasoning on top of the search to find the right information and to maybe piece things together. If you want to, you can build this service. It's not complicated. You can build it on top of Azure AI Search or so on. In this kind of project where we're trying to be at the forefront, even then you can look at the news and you can look at Microsoft Ignite, and you can see that, aha, now they're coming with this service that will help you.
Okay.
So I guess that, yeah, you can be on top of the technology, and it creates a lot of demand on your strategic thinking and your organization to decide, do you want to lead in this area and innovate? Because then you need to really think about how you're investing and what services you're using so you can build for the future. Or do you want to wait? Because things are getting solved by the large corporations and by the startups. So it's going to be more and more plug and play. So it's a huge balance here. Do we want to move now or later? Personally, I think that everyone should consider their AI strategy and should start moving in that direction, because we're not going back in capability or in time.
Yeah.
We're definitely going to want to make moves in this direction. It's just a matter of how and when.
Yeah. So you mentioned about it. So back in Celestio when I was there, so we have this project for our city scanners. So we usually do the manual checking of the photos, what are the errors, what are the problems. So we started this project for AI, like all of our photos built into one system. And then suddenly we had this challenge of, there's the margin of error is very high because we couldn't find the right data. So the thing is, we should have, instead of putting all of these photos or images, we should have check it first if it's quality data or not. So is this also a challenge that you can see for example, that you're saying that you have all this data, all these SOPs and, text from the companies, and how do you as a consultant, how do you tell the organization or the institution that we need to clean the data first. So because if it's garbage in, you also get garbage out, right?
Yes. So my specialization is that I try to be the bridge between business and technology, because what you're mentioning, for example, with image data, that's one particular type of problem, one particular type of challenges. And before you even get there, you need to navigate a little bit of, okay, but what can we do? So approximating reality.
Yeah.
Basically, overall, this is our company, these are our use cases, where has technology evolved in these generic areas? And then you can start to pinpoint a little bit. But I would say that, for example, what data do we have? That's one of the fundamental questions that you will always get those questions if you work with someone who has enough experience to know what pitfalls to avoid. And now I'm a consultant, so I'm a little bit biased myself, but I think that a lot of consultants, they get the benefit of having worked with multiple clients, multiple environments, multiple types of challenges. So it's a little bit easier, not every time, but it's a little bit easier to just go outside of the business environment and think, all right, I understand this is important to you, but, and then in your case, you would say immediately, what is the data? What quality do we have here in the pictures? I would probably need an expert to say, we need this level of data to be able to answer this type of question. And even an
Okay.
expert might need to do a proof of concept or to do an
Yes.
assessment using actual real data. But I would also say that it's not, don't be afraid to try, to ask the questions and to move in that direction, because you can get to the test fast if you know that it's valuable. And you get to the test, you get to the challenges, and you find out, okay, this is the situation. Now we need to prioritize.
Yeah. So because we had this experience, it's really very, very challenging, because I think it should be the right first time. You should get the data cleaned first before rolling out. What
Yeah.
happened to us was just, okay, we compiled everything, and then just that's it, and gave it to the vendor. So it was really challenging for us to to
So they
backtrack
got
everything.
a solution that was kind of not
Yes.
perfect yet. Yeah.
So that's it. So in terms of for individual ones, I'd just like to ask you, what areas of modern life do you believe will be reshaped by AI in ways we still aren't talking about enough right now?
Right. I think one thing I'm underestimating as a parent, like I think children will get access to really smart toys or tutors.
Yes.
An individual assistant that's not necessarily in a chat interface, but it can be a physical device that you can talk to, that can get guidance, and you can get help with homework and things like this. I don't know if you have seen this, but in China, this is already a thing. I think it's cultural, partially because parents might not have time for the kids, so they feel a little bit guilty conscience, so they get the fun toy. And the kid can really bond with, it's not a Tamagotchi, it's it's a really smart, emotionally competent. In my opinion, this is really scary as well.
Okay.
But it's an intelligent companion for kids. That's a robot or a toy or something like this that can really understand and bond with your kid. I think something like this, especially for kids, because they have time and they have this exploratory journey where they're learning things, and they're going to school, and the school system is in no way perfect or ready for AI and so on. But I think that AI for kids is actually an area that's going to be quite transformative. I would say we underestimate the AI companions as well, and this is another scary thing, like basically forming an attachment with an AI assistant or with a piece of software. I'm not sure what the consequences of that will be, but I would say that this is the same as with social media. We need to be really alert as individuals, like how do I want to use the technology to become the person that I want to be. For some people, it's really useful to practice companionship or having a social buddy to talk to, or to, about the changes to how ChatGPT is no longer allowed to give professional advice on psychological questions. I think that's important. But also, a lot of people need to talk about how they feel, and there's a lot of learning to do in that. So that is one of the near-term areas where I think we have underestimated AI. It will be really important to people's lives. in a way that it's more a companionship thing, and
Yeah.
maybe especially for kids.
Yeah. And one of my podcast guests also mentioned about this companionship. He
Mm.
is, and some of his clients are using this as therapy also
Yeah.
right now. And he is very, very surprised and at the same time very scared because there's still no, guardrails in this AI, right? We don't know where until when is the security would be up to what level. So he said like maybe the AI would give some advice that is not really, scientifically, correct. So that's one of the things that he said. And it was good that you also mentioned about this. Now this is not on the adult side, this is now on the children side, which is also very, very difficult right now. So in your view, what is the single most underestimated second order effect of AI on the society that leaders should be preparing for?
That's a huge question. So I would say, and this is something that also ties into the kind of network we're building with Align, but I would say that the way that humans bond and work together is going to fundamentally shift due to a number of reasons related to AI, including trust and authenticity issues. Like if you're reading something online, it might be semi AI generated. It doesn't feel as natural, and it doesn't feel as meaningful. And we combine that with job losses and the threat of job loss and the economic shift of AI, which I think is starting to be shown, but the coming years we're going to see more fundamental impact on people's lives and jobs. I think that the second order effect of this, if we look at this in an optimistic view, I think people will need more human connection, both in how we work and how we collaborate and how we live. Meaning basically that, let's say, for example, if you're a professional, you work at a large company, you want meetings in person, and you want meetings that are not just about work. You want meetings that are social and interactive, and maybe with people from outside of your company. Because as humans, this is what we still excel at, and we are drawn to it. But maybe we haven't had the opportunity to do so in the digital society as much as we would like to. And especially with COVID, when everyone is locked down in their screen, we're going to hybrid work, we sit in the front of the computer, which is great. We can network with all of the world. But I think that's one of the biggest second order effects, that we want to meet in meaningful ways with colleagues and family, and hopefully, and especially if we see unemployment rise, then of course you need this kind of forum to meet up and do something meaningful instead of just sitting home and watching Netflix and talking to your personal companion.
Mm-hmm.
That's the optimistic view, I would say. So we're going to see more meaningful meetings and more community overall.
Yeah, that's great. So, what do you think about the virtual reality VR meetings? Because I have this also someone from this podcast that they are doing this also like a coaching or training, and then some of the verticals that they think looking at is having this meeting with your in the VR, like
Yeah. Have
connections,
you?
right? The human connections would be face to face. Do you think there will be still human connection when it comes to VR if you're not
Yeah,
meeting in person?
definitely. I was looking into this a few years ago with Meta Quest 3 release and more consumer grade hands-free headset. Have you ever tried a virtual meeting in VR?
Not yet.
No, no.
I haven't tried yet.
But I actually thought that this would move faster, and I looked into specifically virtual meetings. Part of the reason is what I just mentioned, that we want to interact after COVID. We need to meet with people, and if you work in different locations, then you should kind of want to go and play mini golf with your colleagues once in a
Yeah,
while. That's really
correct.
like it is a sufficiently immersive experience to take on the headset and play mini golf, and then just chit chat with your friends. I don't know why it didn't pick off. If you look at the adoption trend, then the headset sales are rising. But my assessment back then was that the apps for business meetings weren't um, seamless enough, meaning that you kind of can't work like you want to. Like, for example, you can't bring in the keyboard, you can't bring in the presentation, you can't work around. It's a little bit artificial. So you would have a meeting where basically you have this beautiful environment, you go inside, and then you can just hear the other person. And that's all. You only get the audio. And you see their avatar and so on. But you can click some button, you toast a marshmallow. But it's not meaningful. You can't interact. There's one startup that they have a really interesting concept. They're called Arthur VR. And their idea is basically now with AI, they think that this is the perfect place for us to meet not just other humans, but other intelligences. Because if you give the AI assistant or the software, if you give them a physical form inside of the VR world, you can interact with them on equal terms. So you and I, we could walk around, we invite some colleagues from other parts of the world, and then we bring some of our assistants because, my assistant, he's really great at explaining some of the things that I can't. And he will take notes as well. So he will join us in the room, and we're sitting at a conference room. We're sharing presentations, and we get some input, and the AI is interacting with us. And I think that something like this might be part of the future. Some organizations, they're using this to great length for human meetings, but I also think that maybe this is a new interface for human AI interaction, which is sci-fi.
It's very interesting to see that because it's very vague. How do you draw the human connection in the future? Like, for example, we have all these technologies, right? So how do you draw that? Like if it's virtual and then there are real avatars of you and me in that meeting and some other people also in that meeting, but we are connecting, right? So is that still describe as human connection or just virtual human connection? You know what? Is the experience going to be the same when it's face to face, or it's just face to face virtual reality?
But for example, now we're moving to a totally different topic, but in online dating, the human connection in online dating is sometimes higher than if you're meeting someone in person. Because when you're online dating, you can skip the filters. You don't need to think about how you look and how you act in public. You just talk about what you feel and what you think and what your values are. And you have this text link to another human, but the link is stronger, so you can actually connect on a deeper level for some online dating sites where you type long messages back and forth. So you can get to know someone faster than if you were to meet in real life, which I find amazing. And it kind of ties into how I see we humans, we are super adaptable, and that's part of our superpower that has allowed us to move into this very modern society that is hugely different from what we were evolved to. And this social adaptability makes it so that when we are talking, we're kind of acting as if we're in the same room. It's not really the same, but our mind is playing tricks on us. And this is also what's happening when we're talking to ChatGPT. Our mind is telling us there is someone on the other side, so I can use this kind of habit. I can converse in this way, and I'll get the response. And this is part of the reason why generative AI is so powerful, because we think about it as another entity we can interact with, which is different than an IT system. So overall, VR meetings and all of these things that sound super sci-fi, and a personal assistant that you can take in your hand and like, oh, this is my friend now. We are super weird animals. We can imagine a lot of things, and our brains are kind of plastic enough to rewire to act as if this is real. Now, I still think that the personal meeting where you can physically shake someone's hand and you can look at the same thing and you're in the same room, you have the angles, you can have some food, still is superior. But I wouldn't be so afraid of having new types of experiences that also feel very human. So we'll have an interesting decade, especially that you mentioned VR.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because I think because people are treating ChatGPT as a real person. So I think somewhere, somehow in the future that this ChatGPT will be humanized. Somebody who is, in front of you. So the only way to do that is, how do we do that? We can do it in a virtual reality, or we can do that in a robot type. Like, Elon Musk is already developing this robot. So we can do that as well. So that's why I ask you about it. And I think it's very exciting, but also very scary. We don't know how is this going to be in the future. What are the guardrails? What are the securities that we need to put into that? Because as we all know, they're still also not human, and we are just also feeding them our own data, and then they just connecting everything in one place, like the ChatGPT and some
Mm.
Gemini.
One prediction here from my side, because technically it would be possible to stream an AI assistant as a person into, let's say, a Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting with their avatar, moving their mouth and so on, because you can generate the image fast enough for that. I'm not sure if this has happened, but if this starts happening and we get AI entering our space, I think we're going to see a huge reaction against this. It's going to feel like really, you get a human instinct that they're invading our world.
Yes, correct.
We are not there yet because they're boxed up. And what you're mentioning, that they're coming in,
Yes,
whenever we see this, we're going to see a huge reaction that people
yeah.
are really going to rebel and say, like, ban AI, no AI in our meetings, it's an AI free zone, like really gut instinct about that. And I think maybe it's, in some sense, it's justified as well. But yeah, interesting times.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much. It was very insightful, interaction and then conversation with you and discussion. We covered a lot of things and it was very meaningful and fruitful. I'm so happy that you were here with me and I was able to get some technical insights from you and then also what's happening in Sweden now. So I was not aware that even the government are now moving forward so that and I know Sweden is very innovative country. So it is going to happen there. So we are now going to the last round. It is a 10x rapid round, fire fast round. So I'm going to ask you 10 questions about yourself. Ask it, I'll just answer it honestly. So you already mentioned this. So what's the one tool you actually use every day? AI tool.
ChatGPT
Okay.
project.
What's one task AI has already 10x in your life?
I would say there's only one task really, and that is research, basically looking into a topic in ways that I wouldn't do before, or it would take hours. So
Yeah.
using deep research tool to just look into topics, really, really, really helpful.
Okay. Third question would be what human skill AI can never replace?
Well, I mean, never has a long time. I would say right now, human judgment is still far superior. Like just making a decision based on very limited data.
Okay. So if you could automate one annoying thing forever, what would it be?
Yeah, so one thing I've been looking into is calendar scheduling. I know there are
Uh-huh.
some AI agents that are really
Yeah.
great at comparing schedules from people and setting a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, I need a little bit more trust on that. Scheduling.
Okay. So, what's the biggest misconception about AI right now?
I think that people look at the surface level of AI. Like when we say AI, we think that it's a generative AI chat. Even then, it's not just AI. There's a lot of layers to the onion and including the entire tech stack. I think people need to be a little bit more aware and open-minded that AI is not just AI. It's a model inside of a system that interfaces with other systems, and think about it in this way. It's more complex than that.
Okay. So, what advice would you give someone who wants to become 10x of himself or herself starting today?
Well, a little bit biased advice, but find the right people and meet in real life. Discuss. Like don't get locked up. If you want a 10x, share and interact with others that can be a source of inspiration to you. Uh, and then you can focus on AI in those meetings. But like learning journey, if you want to really accelerate, then you should do it with others.
Okay. So, what would you tell your younger self about the future?
Oof, this is a good one. Well, I think there's an easy answer. Yes, IT is a legitimate job. I used to think that it's, just a hobby. It's just for fun. But it turns out we live in a really digital world, and I would like
Mm-hmm.
to tell myself that this is really important, and the future is going to be even more important. So definitely don't be embarrassed to just immerse yourself in technology, because this is part of what it is being human now.
Okay. And what's one book, podcast, or resource that shaped your thinking about AI or innovation?
Andrei Karpathy is my main inspiration. He's very elegant at formulating where we're at. Not always perfect, but he's participating in some really good podcasts. And whenever new material comes out, I listen. So that's my favorite.
And then if you had to bet on one AI trend that will be massive in 3 years, what is it?
Massive AI trend in 3 years. I think within 3 years we can start to see this kind of humanoid robots.
Mm-hmm.
Might not look as a humanoid, but a new type of generic robotics that you don't need to program explicitly. Like, I think people will be surprised at how easy it is to invite robots into our lives. Like maybe it will be on a bicycle robot delivering the food, or it will be a restaurant taking your order or something like this. But
Yeah.
robotics is probably ready in 3 years.
Okay. And then this last question. What does 10x mean to you personally?
I would say to always strive to improve yourself mostly, and just accept that there's, like, you don't need to be perfect. You never need to be perfect, but there's always a way to improve. And X is a great goal, because then you're ambitious.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was a rapid 10x round. It's very nice talking to you. So if our viewers and listeners would like to contact you, where do they find you?
You can find our website on alliansweden.com, or you can contact me directly on LinkedIn. I'm usually quite engaged, so happy to follow up if someone is interested.
Yeah, thank you very much again. And it was very enjoyable conversation with you. Again, thank you very much for having your time here. I know you're very busy, but I'm really grateful that you're here.
Yeah, thanks
Okay,
to you, Julius.
Yeah, thank you very much.